answers. This is from an 8th grade level book done by an early high school, not the 10th grade. So take a minute to read those, and I'm also passing out a rubric for the HSA. I want you to compare those answers to, grade it against the rubric. See what you would give it according to our official state rubric.
I've never graded with the rubric.
Well,
I've seen them, but I've never actually graded with the rubric.
There's time for everything. Everybody.
Just hold steady.
All right, let's take about another minute. Okay, so one thing that I want to say is that when I was looking through all our students' answers for focus, whenever there's a good answer, most of the time I would be able to tell what book it came from, what lesson it came from, and even what unit it was, just by skimming the first couple sentences of the unit. Now one thing that really helps, just on very clerical notes, is that up here it says focus on, and you're supposed to write it there and the unit there, okay? If you're working with kids on focus, please do that, because it's really a pain to try to go into files and decide which is which. However, as I was getting frustrated in doing that tonight, I realized that that could actually be a talking point, and that is, it was impossible to tell which book or what unit these came from, right? I was able to do it, but it was coincidental. It was looking through everything and just having an idea of what levels it would be according to the student's grade level. So that's the first thing I want to say. You should be able, this is somewhat of a rote exercise, you should be able to tell or have an idea of where it's coming from just by reading the answer. Alright? So, now, let's talk about what grades we would give it according to the rubric. Why don't we do this? Why don't we read the rubric first? Alex, can you read what is required for a 3?
3.
Which is the highest score?
The response demonstrates an understanding of the complexities of the text, addresses the demands of the question, uses expressed and implied information from the text, clarifies and extends understanding beyond the literal.
Alright, which I would say is probably our biggest problem here, which Stephen can attest to, the man behind the camera, yes, he can attest to as our lead floor teacher, that even when a kid gets it, getting off that ground level of analysis is really difficult. Trying to get someone to understand nuance is probably the hardest thing that we are doing here. Alright? But, that being said, there's not a lot of nuance to these. It's a BCR, brief constructed response, and it's like a page of reading. So it's not like they're reading War and Peace. Alright? Allison, can you read what is required for a 2, please?
The response demonstrates a partial or literal understanding of the text, addresses the demands of the question, although may not develop all parts equally, uses some expressed or implied information from the text to demonstrate understanding, may not fully connect the support to a conclusion or assertion made about the text.
So, not bad, but could be better. Again, there's not a lot of nuance here, but it's clear that they understand it. Maybe everything but any nuance. In the best case scenario with a 2. Denise, can you read what is required for a 1, please?
The response shows evidence of a minimal understanding of the text, may show evidence that some meaning has been derived from the text, may indicate a misreading of the text or the question, may lack information or explanation to support an understanding of the text in relation to the question.
Alright, thank you. And obviously a 0 is a 0. So, let me ask you guys that have experience working in focus. What would you say is the average score for according to this rubric? Now, we don't always grade it by this rubric, and we're not going to officially grade it by this rubric, although I wouldn't blame you for doing that. That's not necessarily what's required of you, but what would you say, according to this, kids normally produce here?
1.
A 1, 2,
2.
1. What would you say, Bill? I know you work with a lot of kids doing focus.
Some 1s and some 2s.
Yeah.
I would say about 1.5
Yeah.
is probably the average, right? If you want to split hairs.
Seen 0s.
Yes, there are zeros.
Often.
You will see zeros tonight, yes.
I see
So-
zeros in SAT prep sometimes.
Well, there you go. So this is a huge problem. It's not limited to just kids here, obviously, but we're working only with them. So let's do this. Let's look at our own, and let's look at these samples and let's grade them accordingly. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's say you three right here can look at the first sample. You three right here can look at the second sample, and you guys look at the third one and decide what you would give it according to the rubric.
We're doing the second one, right?
Story.
We are doing
I
the
say
middle
we
one?
assume
Yeah.
that
Right,
the
this
answer
one.
is
In my
correct, even if it's
opinion.
not very complete.
I wouldn't assume
I
that.
would relieve.
I'm not even sure what it
In my
says.
opinion.
I'm usually good at
The end of the
deciphering
story
spelling,
that
but
That she was
could
done.
not
No.
incorporate his
Kayaking.
That's why I
things
chose
to
this one.
turn off.
Yeah, I'm not sure
Well
what
has
that
just.
I,
Yeah,
I don't
okay.
even
I
understand what
agree
the
with
child
you.
is trying to
You're
say.
right.
I'm usually, I
In
mean,
my
it's just first
opinion,
In my
grade.
opinion,
I'm
was
good at
relieved that
spelling,
she
but
was
this
done
is not-
kayaking.
Did not
Okay.
turn get
That she was, she was relieved. Is it relieved?
Yeah.
Let's say even if you.
In my opinion,
what you
when
do
she was relieved,
understand,
or she was
how much
relieved.
of that-
When she was
how much of it you
relieved,
understand
that
without
was
spelling
done
errors?
kayaking.
I think she meant to write, in my opinion, she was relieved that she was done kayaking. Right?
Your guess is as good as
I would
mine.
be surprised if they copied like the.
In my opinion, when she was relieved when she was done kayaking.
Yeah, so I think when is not required.
At the end.
Right.
So which focus it is.
In my
I'd say
opinion,
probably
she was
That's
0
relieved.
and 1 now.
I would give them. That's just the technical. We don't even know if it addresses the question.
Yeah, we don't know the question.
Because the student
So
does not understand in any way, shape, or
One would
form
be
what
What,
it means.
one?
reasonable.
One would be
Or
being
zero?
generous.
One?
At least this one has,
definitely a one.
I
One.
don't like the fact that it used contraction, because that's not proper writing. But other than that, spelling.
Are you supposed to restate the question in your answer?
That's
I don't
pretty much, yeah.
Addresses
You
the
are.
demands.
All
We're
or
all
part of
three
the
of these from
answer.
the
That way
same
you know
group.
you're directly answering the question that's being asked.
So, the reason I
This is an
believe she
older
is
student.
relieved
This
is
is like
because she.
But we don't know what the question
Well,
is, that's the
let's just
thing.
pretend like,
Yeah.
because she
Hard to believe.
disliked
Yeah.
kayaking, and so she would feel relieved when she's done, or something like that. That way you know
Yeah.
why they're asking
Yeah.
why was she relieved, or whatever.
And
the
who is
question was.
she? Like the character as a name? Because there could have been more than one she in the
These are all
story.
separate stories too, right?
Yeah.
No.
So,
Look at this.
Alright.
so there's no, you have no idea which character they're referring
That's what I
to.
say whenever they write.
You kind of don't even know
I don't understand
if was she relieved because she was done kayaking,
how it.
or was it the kayaking the
All
reason
right,
why she was
so-
relieved?
I'm just talking.
First one, what would we give it according to
Did
the
she
rubric?
relieve herself while she was kayaking?
Somewhere between 0 and 1.
Someone between a 0 and a 1. Right. Another thing. Where's my focus book? So with focus, they all have different titles. There's compare and contrast, recognize cause and effect, draw conclusions, make inferences, and making predictions. There should be somewhat of an idea of which book they were working out of just by reading it. Or I shouldn't say that, but if you know that they're in this book, there should be some inference or conclusion, right? There might be one here, but there's like a whole lot of missing information that would totally block us from finding that out, for one. So, yes, I would say it's somewhere between 0 and a 1, according to the rubric. Any thoughts on why?
I want to know what that word is. Torn?
Yeah, there's some
It's
creative
supposed to be
stuff.
turn? Or?
And then
Is it 3?
I don't know.
Or
Yeah,
which
I
one
don't
are
know
the,
what that
this
is.
one?
Yeah.
Okay, at the end of the
You
story.
couldn't even get it.
Yeah, I don't
Ever
think, I don't
could
make
not
any sense of this. Maybe if I'd read the story, I would have known what he was trying to say.
Get this.
Spike?
That's supposed to be bike.
Get
Could
this.
be.
Yeah.
Like get his bike to turn off?
He couldn't
Right.
turn his bike off.
Which
Get
in a way
his
doesn't make sense either.
bike
Like, is it a
to
motorbike?
turn
Is
off.
this, like, obviously it has
At
some
the
type
end
of
of the
switch to
story,
it.
could
If you
not
go with
But there's
the-
nothing telling us that here.
get his bike to turn off.
Okay.
Could not
Tells you what-
get
What happened at the end of the
to
story.
turn his
Okay.
bike off.
What about the second sample? What would you guys give that?
1.
Yeah, we were being
One.
generous. We were being generous.
Being generous with the 1.
Yeah.
Okay. Why a 1?
Well, just the actual structure of the sentence does not make sense.
No,
It
it
says,
doesn't.
in my opinion, when she was relieved that
That
she
she-
was done kayaking.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know.
The only thing that should be out of there is the when.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
when.
And you know what upsets me? The fact that a teacher took time to correct this and corrected the spelling, paid enough attention to that, but obviously didn't read the whole thing, just looked at individual words, which is annoying because that's what we try to get our students not to do. So please don't do that as teachers. All right. I would give it a 1 being generous as well. What about the third one?
0.
0. Bill, I thought
We
you
were
had a
the
really
most
good point
generous
as to
ones.
why that was a 0.
Didn't understand it at all, didn't
Please
even
don't
understand
rock
what
the
rocking
boat.
the boat means.
These
Right,
ones
exactly.
means not
Incorrect.
to tip the boat.
Yeah.
Taking it too literally, and that's what's in the rubric, talking about taking things literally, and this is a direct correlation to taking it quite literally.
Yep.
The only thing I commented on, other than the contraction, which I don't like to encourage them to do because it's not appropriate in formal writing, you don't use contractions. Other than that, this one is actually spelled all right.
Well, the
That's true.
contraction may have been in the original question, because
Yeah.
please don't rock the boat.
But
is
then it
the,
should be,
standard.
in quotes.
Yes,
Right.
it should be in quotes.
Please don't rock the boat, though, is, the usual
Yeah.
phrasing of the cliche, so
I would,
I might have let that go.
let's,
If it were in
everything else
quotes,
is
I'd be
good.
fine.
We don't need to hit them on contractions, just so you know. You're right. We can pick our battles here, all right? Okay, here's what we'll do now.
Wait, this is the same student, all 3 of these?
Yes, same students. Consecutive, or nearly consecutive units, too.
Wait, it
So
was
they did this all
inferencing?
within,
It was-
yes, yeah,
And this is, you said 8th grader? No, what did you say?
10th grader.
10th grader?
No.
Is it 10?
Oh, yeah.
9th, 10th
Tenth
grade.
grader,
We
but-
have kids with severe learning disabilities. This is the type of stuff you'll run up against.
Is the 10th grader doing what level? What level is this?
8th grade.
Okay.
But, I mean, yeah, that's a lot of the things you're going to find here. And he's not unintelligent. Like, if he were to tell you this, I think he'd be able to give you a very good answer. Writing things down was very hard, which is why we're all here tonight. So, let's take this and pass it around and do this the other way. So what we're going to do now is in the same groups, we're going to read our own version and then answer the question, just number 5. Don't worry about the multiple choice. Do this by the rubric. We'll take about 4 or 5 minutes to do this. Then we'll read our answers and maybe decide what score you got. Yeah, we're passing time.
But we don't have the story.
It's coming.
Oh, you'll get it.
Oh.
Be patient.
Oh, I
We're just
see.
making something up.
Oh, we're just getting questions. I got a little confused.